All right, we're going to be talking about a pretty hard subject to cover today. It might be hard for me to get through parts of this, so this is a major trigger warning. I was out at PAX West giving a talk about cybersecurity in the gaming industry just this past weekend. And one of the other talks that I made sure to go to was about child exploitation in online gaming. It was a very blunt talk. They said that in the beginning. They said, hey, feel free to walk out at any point if you need it. So I am giving you that same warning. Obviously, I'm not going to show any disturbing images, but the subject matter is obviously very disturbing. We're going to talk about what these researchers have seen, the current state of child exploitation, child abuse material in online gaming. We're going to talk about some research that they did to collect some data themselves, as in they put themselves on these platforms on accounts labeled as children and documented what happened to them. We're going to talk about the whole Roblox thing going on right now. And then most importantly in this video, we're going to talk about the ways that you can spot this stuff happening in your own house, what you can do to protect against it. This is not a video that's about hey, everyone avoid all online gamings for your children at all costs. That's not the message that I'm here to preach. That's not the message that these presenters of the talk that I'm going to cover preach themselves. Let's get right into it. The talk was called Boss Level Threat, Child Exploitation Trends in Online Gaming. These are photos of the presentation I took myself sitting right up front. So I'm not going to have all the slides, but we're going to cover a bunch of the topic. First and foremost, shout out to the presenter, Teresa, who was previously the chief legal officer for the National Child Protection Task Force, who covered the majority of this presentation. Their co-presenter was from ClickSafe Security. We'll go over them. They're a nonprofit that collects a bunch of this data. They start off obviously defining the topic of what CSAM is. I just want to put this up here really quick in case you are unfamiliar with the acronym CSAM. We're going to be using it a lot. And to kind of set the disturbing tone, these people give this kinds of presentation for years, and they said these numbers just keep going up. But the one number on this slide that I wanted to hone in on was that 13.25% increase in generative AI CSAM. So this wasn't a thing, obviously, a few years ago. It is now becoming a major issue. And one of the main reasons it's a major issue is that there are not laws against this in many states right now. There is no federal protection that says AI generated child exploitation material is illegal, which obviously it takes some time for laws to catch up to technology, but this one is particularly upsetting for me to even talk about. They have over 100 reports today of financial sextortion, extortion related to sexual abuse material a day. We're going to talk about more of that too. So there are real world consequences to a lot of this, not even the obvious stuff of just like the abuse material. But as stated here, I think this was based on this year to date, 51 children have died of suicide due to extortion. So they were either convinced to send pictures of themselves or that material was stolen. And then the predators actually extorted, bullied the kids and saying, hey, if you don't want me to send this to everyone in your school or whatever it is, you got to pay me in iTunes gift cards. And this has actually ended up in kids taking their own lives, which is obviously disgusting. So the two main groups of predators that were talked about in this presentation was the CVLT, I think it's pronounced cult, and then 764. And so obviously law enforcement is all over these two groups, but there's been a major uptick in some of the more disturbing stuff that I found out about was these groups really are geared towards talking minors into self-producing CSAM or talking them into violent acts, harming their siblings, harming their pets, self-harm. And basically what it seems like is the worst thing you can talk someone into, the more street cred you get in this group, the more infamous you become in these circles. And then a lot of times what happens is people that fall victim to this abuse, that's how they get a glimpse into the scene, and then they become abusers themselves. I'm not going to pretend to be a sociologist or a psychologist to explain that one, but there's something there, right? If you're a preteen, teen, and maybe you get victimized in this way, there's something there that some percentage of those people turn into the abusers themselves. So this 764 group seemed particularly bad. The FBI has 250 open cases across all 50 states against them. And I want to hone in on this quote on the bottom. So it says, basically it all started out with him asking her to send stuff in return for Robux, the digital currency on Roblox. And it escalated into him asking her to cut herself, with him even saying, the deeper, the more you earn. I don't really know what to say about this. So that's just there, right? This is depraved. So they're rewarding people. I think, as this bullet says, this 14-year-old victim, the abuser met the victim on Roblox. The abuser planned to even murder this victim. We're seeing this in a lot of hacking groups too, where the more extravagant the exploitation is, the higher status within this group, right? The more notoriety you get in the group. It seems like very similar hierarchies and status going on in this 764, this abuser group. I quite literally don't know what to say about this slide. So this is a quote from a dark web exploitation forum that they pulled during their research. Just going to leave this here. Then what they covered next was this ClickSafe security nonprofit that goes into this. They set up some sort of studies, some experimentation. This was on Roblox. They did this a few years ago and then they redid it in 2025. They set up personas as 8-year-old girls, 8-year-old boys, and then a 27-year-old male as basically as the control. They have some operating procedures here that they're not trying to entrap these predators. They're just trying to exist in the game and see what happens in their direction or what just is happening in the game that they experience to try to emulate, okay, if you're an 8-year-old and your profile is marked as an 8-year-old, what happens? What does the Roblox experience look like for you? They do this for 30 days and they try to play as that persona would play. So the 8-year-olds were playing age-appropriate games. The 27-year-old was playing kind of everything in age-appropriate games, just try to mimic the real-world experience. And it wasn't good, right? So there are obviously parental controls in place on the app, but a lot of them are avoided in various different ways. I've never been on Roblox. I understand that Roblox itself isn't really a game. It's more of a platform. It's more of a community, and there's a lot of games on there and people can make their own games. I do understand all that. So it seems like in a lot of the general areas, maybe the chat restrictions and parental controls are a little bit more elevated. But then as soon as you go into some of these community rooms, that some of those protections start to erode. And then obviously people are just finding ways of protection. So you see sexually charged clothes and messages that might not be age appropriate. So these are things that they saw in game as an account marked as 8 years old. Here, I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see this was a character without their clothes on, skinny dipping in like a hot tub, sexually charged conversations were happening. They said there was inaccurate game age ratings. And again, I'm not super familiar with Roblox, but they said all genres and town and city were the most unsafe and the most inappropriate experience. And then there was a lot of examples of, like I said, people just getting around the normal chat filters, right? So none of these words here are banned by themselves. They're maybe misspelled. They're spelled with extra letters. And this is obviously a depiction of some sort of sexual experience happening in the game. Again, witnessed by an account that was marked as an 8-year-old. One of the big mantras that they said happens on these games is trying to move the conversation out of the game. So this is maybe the first thing to watch for as a parent of someone who might be playing these games is there are protections in the game. There are filters in the game. The predators try to get the conversation out of the game. The games are wise to this, so they block a lot of the common names of different apps that people are trying to get into. So when the predators are trying to move the conversation to Discord, they can't say, hey, talk to me on Discord to an 8-year-old account. I don't know if you could say it as an adult, but they say, my Blue Guy app is this. So they find different key phrases to say, hey, this is my Discord or this is my WhatsApp. So they, like I said, they did it a few years ago. They did it again earlier this year from February to June in 2025. Within 48 hours of their 8-year-old personas going live, they were solicited. So, pretty much immediately. And again, they didn't take this research as seriously as maybe law enforcement would. They're not trying to act as law enforcement. So they didn't really pull these threads that we're seeing any further than they would as like normal citizens. They just are showing you what they observed without going deep down the rabbit hole. They included some predator quotes in here. So this is one from a dark web exploitation forum. I showed you that kind of earlier disgusting quote. Here's more of someone talking just about their strategy as a predator in general, which is like a weird thing to say. So they say, I'm just going to read it. Online games like Fortnite, be the team leader, give tips, support, push talk about the games, what's happening right now, be funny, care for your mates, casual, random talk, Discord servers, join, engage people. Join empty voice chat, others will follow. People are reasons to start leading to deeper topics. This is kind of their how to be a normal looking person as a predator. And they go on, there are definitely girls on the internet. I've been friends with them for years now. And yes, there are many, mostly in video games like Roblox and Minecraft, Fortnite, and apps like Discord and stuff. So I don't want to beat up on Roblox too much, even though that was the study that was going on. One of the other major points that I guess we should talk about really quick is that there's some news going on in Roblox, if you haven't heard, where they've actually banned accounts of these content creators on YouTube who are actually staging themselves in online games like Roblox to try to catch predators like these researchers did, but they're doing it publicly as content. And then Roblox is banning those accounts, the vigilante accounts. There's this big community outcry of oh, you're being harsher to the people trying to clean up your community than you are to the predators. They're saying, hey, well, the predators are breaking the same rules by pretending to be an age that they are not. I don't know. It's a PR nightmare over there. I think it's pretty silly of them to ban an account that was obviously trying to help, but I think it's probably just bringing negative attention to them overall on that content. And I would assume that's more of the reason than the person actually pretending to be the wrong age, which I feel like is probably rampant on the platform. But a bunch of slides that I did skip over were about how lots of online games are, children have negative experiences on them. Maybe not CSAM level negative experiences to the level that we were showing in this Roblox study, but they called out League of Legends, Fortnite, a lot of these other normal kind of popular online games as children self-reporting that they had negative experiences on them. A lot of those were about bullying. I think we've all experienced the Call of Duty lobby level of experience of, if maybe I wouldn't want my 9-year-old to hear the things that were said into my Xbox headset when I used to play some of those games. And shocking to nobody that League of Legends is full of bullies. So this stuff can happen everywhere. The major things that they were harping on was this isn't a do not let your kids play online games, because then that's going to make them a pariah and have other negative childhood experiences. But we're going to get into some tips of what they did say were the steps that you could and should take instead of just saying no games. The overarching tip is to just be an active and aware parent. And one of the major things was getting all of the peers involved, the peer parents, the people in their class, the people in their school. This is something you're seeing when in conversations about teenagers using social media of, you can't be the only teenager in your class not on social media, because that's even worse. So getting your whole school involved in whatever the approach is super important. One of the main avenues that these researchers expressed as being a positive step that you could take is actually being involved in the gaming experience with your kids, not in a helicopter parent kind of way to let's see what these people are saying to you and then getting mad at them and blowing up if you see one of these sexually explicit things in chat. Because obviously that's not going to help anything. That's going to be a negative experience. Your kid is going to try to go around you and sneak. We all remember being kids. The stricter the parents, the more clever the kid is going to get. They talk about building the strong relationship with your child, instilling trust in one another so that when they do have these experiences, if they do get to an uncomfortable or dangerous level, that they feel safe enough to talk to you about it. That was the first and foremost major tip. Discussing these things, discussing the potential dangers so that they aren't completely unaware of, hey, there are people out there that have bad intentions with you. Not every interaction that you're going to have on this game is going to be a positive one. I'm going to read this bullet right off the thing because I think it's important. If they come to you, listen to them without judging or shaming them. Remain calm even if you're feeling strong emotions, and focus on the best way to tackle the problem, which is not that your kids saw this or that it was in any way their fault. Parental controls and monitoring software can only do so much. Taking active involvement in your child's interests and online activities is way more effective. Couldn't highlight this bullet more. Another important topic is what to look out for, okay? Obviously building that relationship with your kids so that they can come talk to you, but if they don't, what are you keeping an eye out for to see if something's going on? So new online love interest or friends is obviously something to keep an eye out for. If they start harming their siblings or pets out of nowhere, that was something that these groups are trying to get them to do. A sudden influx of money or new possessions, this one seems pretty obvious, especially if it's in real life money. But one of the things that was not so obvious to me that they brought up here was if you're an active participant in your child's online gaming life, if they all of a sudden have some expensive in-game items, like an expensive mount or some expensive skins or outfits or weapons or whatever the game is that you need real money to buy that thing in game, and you know how much money that you've been giving your kid in game or not giving your kid in game, and if all of a sudden they have all these new fancy things in game, it's a red flag. Where did they get it? Who are they talking to that's giving them all these gifts in the game? This is like a tactic that a lot of these predators use. And then an increased dependency or attachment to the phone. If they're going through something super traumatic, they might be panicking, right? If someone is extorting them, if someone is grooming them, there might be like this psychological need to like watch what's going on. And this control is what these groups thrive off of, the control over the kid. And if they're under control of the predator, which is their entire goal, they're going to be tied to their phone, maybe more so than usual, maybe in a less casual way, not in like a brain rot way, but in a must have it kind of way. Some sort of communication is going on. So what do you do if something happens? So if your child is, maybe they're a teenager, maybe they self-produced some material, right? They took pictures of themselves and send it to somebody, which is illegal, by the way, just like FYI, that is still CSAM, even if they do it voluntarily and produce it themselves. What do you do? So here is an organization. This is that national center that the presenter was the chief legal officer of, missing and exploited children. They have this service, Take It Down. This is where you can report these photos existing or being shared online. And they keep a database, a hashed database, match the hash of that photo so that it's not people looking through all these photos. It's not a database of the photos. It's a hash of the photo to keep a monitor on for the pictures that are known minors to be taken down. So a lot of the social media sites out there subscribe to these databases of hashes, and then all the photos on their platform, they check against these hashes. And if there's a match, there's a whole process to take it down, report it to law enforcement and all that sort of. So that was pretty much the presentation. The group that the one of the presenters was part of is called Click Safe Intelligence. That's their website. I just wanted to bring this up because they do have some resources on here for parents. If you go to their resources page, they have these safety guides that you can download as parents. I'll put a link to this down below. And these are safety guides that you can download that can help you have a checklist. So say Roblox was what we were talking about for kids 9 and under. Here's a checklist of different things that you can do for your Roblox account to have a baseline of the safety. So you can enable a parent PIN, account restrictions, two-step verification to parental device. So your parental device has to verify whatever it is that fires off a two-step verification, not their own device. You could set experience chat to nobody. Always update Roblox because obviously they're going to have protections that come out. Ensure your child's age is correct in Roblox. So whatever protections they do have do get fire on the right account. Ensure you and your child understand how to report content on Roblox that you do find that is inappropriate. Set device restrictions on devices where Roblox is played and monitor your child's Roblox account with a parent account. All right, heavy topic today. Needed to put it out there. I put a video about this out on TikTok and Instagram, and I just knew that I needed to make kind of a longer form topic here. And I think YouTube is a little bit more permissive with some of the words that I could use. Like I didn't want to talk about suicide on the social media platforms, even if we're talking about it in a preventative way. I think those words get flagged on those platforms. I hope this was helpful. Please share it with parents of kids who might be playing these games. I think this is important information to get out there. If you guys want to see more about this, I'm happy to reach out to these presenters, see if they'll come on the channel and have a conversation. Let me know if you'd be interested in that in the comments below. And maybe we can do an AMA with some of these experts who are putting these people in jail, chasing these people, and doing all the good work that they're doing. Thank you to PAX West for having me as a presenter and giving a platform to an important topic such as this. It was a great conference. It was my first PAX and I can't wait to go to more. And if this was valuable, please do all the YouTube things down below. This is still pretty small account, right? So share, comment, the algorithm, all that stuff really helps. Check out my weekly newsletter on vulnu.com. Vulnerable You goes out every Friday morning. I appreciate you. See you next time.